Will the Abomination of Desolation happen in a literal rebuilt temple, or is it a symbol for something else? I want to take you through the scriptures and show you why I think it's literal. So let's start with the most important one, which is Matthew 24:15. It says, "So when you see standing in the holy place the abomination of desolation described by the prophet Daniel, let the reader understand, then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains." So we learn several things from this verse. We learn that it is one event that can be seen by other people. It happens in Jerusalem, and it'll be so obvious that the people in Judea need to immediately flee to the mountains. Jesus also shows us that the abomination of desolation can be understood by looking at the book of Daniel. So let's take a look at Daniel 9:27. It says, "He will make a firm covenant with many for 1 week, but in the middle of the week he will put a stop to sacrifice and offering, and the abomination of desolation will be on a wing of the temple until the decreed destruction is poured out on the desolator." So here we learn that the Antichrist makes a firm covenant for 1 week, which stands for 7 years in this prophecy. But in the middle of the 7 years, he puts a stop to the sacrifice and offering. Then we find out that the abomination of desolation will be set up on a wing of the temple. If you look at other Old Testament verses, it really explains what an abomination is. Let's look at Jeremiah 7:30. It says, "The people of Judah have sinned before my very eyes, says the Lord. They have set up their abominable idols right in the temple that bears my name, defiling it." In Jeremiah 32:34, it says, "They have set up their abominable idols right in my own temple, defiling it." So it's likely some kind of idol that the Antichrist sets up in this rebuilt temple. Now let's go to the New Testament to see if we can find any support for any of these ideas. Let's look at 2 Thessalonians 2:3-4. Here it says, "The son of perdition," which is another name for the Antichrist, "will oppose and exalt himself above all that's called God or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." So part of the abomination will be the Antichrist actually declaring himself to be God in this rebuilt temple. We can also look at Revelation chapter 11, 1 and 2. It says, "Then I was given a stick like a measuring rod. I was told, 'Stand up and measure the temple of God and the altar and count those who worship there. But don't measure the courtyard outside the temple. Leave that out, because it is given to the nations, and they will trample the holy city for 42 months. This fits in with the timeline that we see. If the abomination of desolation happens in the middle of the 7 years, that leaves 3.5 years for the holy city to be trampled. We also see some parallels in Revelation 13:4. It says, "Because of the signs it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived the inhabitants of the earth. It ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived," and that's the Antichrist. So with all of these scriptures, we're seeing a common theme. We're seeing some kind of idol or image that's set up. We're seeing the Antichrist declaring himself to be God, and we're seeing an actual temple that's rebuilt. So those are some of the reasons why I believe it's actually going to be a literal temple. For anyone that thinks it's symbolic, they have the difficult task of taking all of these Bible verses and making them mean a Christian as the temple of God. When you insert Christians as the temple of God in any of these verses, none of it makes sense anymore. Hope that helps.